on our Thursday evenings, instead of us having our time, we dedicate our time to helping with their reading skills and pronunciation. It's a really good experience, I think, to see these kids have somebody to look up to, or like somebody to help them, which is the help that they may not receive at school or at home. I am happy to say that I do give them that help.
That was Eileen. She's a 15-year-old in 10th grade who volunteers after school to tutor kids in her neighborhood of Valley Brook, just outside of Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome to What Living Means. I'm Vanessa Jasinski. On this episode, we're talking about after-school programs and why they are vitally important to the development of children. We'll be speaking with Jim Hollinsworth. He and his wife, Melinda, are the founders of the PATH Project. Jim was an executive pastor at a local church, and his wife spent time as both a second grade and a special needs teacher. They designed the PATH Project to be a stepping stone for kids with academics, physical activity, and other skills to successfully graduate high school.
As you said, my wife Melinda we started the PATH Project about 10 years ago in a manufactured home community just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, with the idea of, hey, we're going to partner with schools and neighborhood residents and community managers to provide some academic support and education resources for the kids living in this one community at the beginning. And then since 2010, it's grown to where we now serve kids in 8 mobile home communities across Georgia and Tennessee. And our goal is to really just inspire and equip kids in these communities to find their path to high school graduation and college attendance and, just their future.
Why are you so passionate about manufactured housing or mobile home communities? What is it about them that made you guys want to really be a part of these communities?
That's a great question. I think for Melinda and I, when we first got started 10 years ago, it was all about the people. We met one family that lived in a manufactured home community a few miles from where we live. And, that relationship just changed our life. It was a family who had immigrated from Mexico, and they were here to provide a better life for their kids. And we didn't know any families that had walked through that. And so hearing their story, it just inspired us so much. And we got to know this family. And through that relationship, we recognized hey, this family is doing so many great things. They're working hard. They're providing for their family. They're providing a better life, a better opportunity for their kids. But the one area that they would ask for help in those first few months was with education, was with school. The parents were saying, hey, look, we would love our kids to go to college and pursue their dreams and careers that, maybe we weren't able to do so because we didn't go to college. And so can you guys help them get there? And so that was really what inspired us, was that initial relationship. And then just meeting families over the years, families who just have so much passion and are so resourceful on wanting a better life for their kids, but don't always have the tools and the life experience and just the education to help their kids further their education. And so that's why we do what we do, is because we are just super inspired by families who want to work hard, who want to provide for their kids and are doing it. And we just want to be an extra level of support and say, hey, let's all work together and reach those goals that they have for their kids. That's the most fun part of what we do, is getting to see families celebrate their kids at graduations and college graduations and all this kind of stuff. Stuff that literally is the first time in their family. Anyone, you talk about, families that have moved to the US for jobs and for work and to provide opportunity. But, parents may have a high school education. Many of them don't. Many of them, may have a middle school education, but they definitely don't have a college education. So when you talk about a young person being the first person in their family ever, generations back forever, to go to college, it is huge, and it's a game changer. And you're just talking about kids and their families and generations impacted down the road. That's why we do what we do. And so it's just super inspiring.
That's awesome. Can you tell us maybe some success stories or what you've seen in terms of how your programs really assisted these communities, these kids and their families?
So for us, it's been really encouraging to see kids become the first person in their family to go to college here in the U.S. A lot of the families that we work with are first and second generation immigrant families. And so, really great people, really hardworking folks, but not a lot of experience with going to college. And so for us, really 2016 was the first year we were able to work with some students through high school graduation and into college. And so seeing kids, be the first in their family to go to college, and just the pride on their faces and the pride on their parents' faces is just really awesome. And specifically at one of our communities in Atlanta owned by Yes Communities, over the last few years, we've been able to partner with some students and help them kind of reach their academic goals and college attendance. We have several students that have come through the programs there who are now in college. Some are working towards a degree in early childhood education. They want to be a teacher. We have a recent graduate from this past spring here in 2020 who is actually the valedictorian, but we're excited to share now that she has been accepted. Well, she was accepted to a lot of prestigious universities, but she was accepted and is going to be attending Cornell University.
Wow. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe how COVID's affecting, a lot of these youth in these communities? I know some pools are starting to open up, some athletics are maybe starting to happen too, but it's a different world now. So can you give us a little bit of detail around your program and how kids are coping, even this summer?
3 months ago when the world changed, when COVID hit, we had to shift what we do. Obviously, our work is in person with kids, after school programs mostly. So we've got a lot of kids in small spaces. So we had to stop doing what we were doing. We started working with the schools on distance learning support. So our team kind of shifted to, being able to work from home, but using technology to connect with families and connect with students and connect with their teachers at school, and trying to be, just a next level of support. So a lot of our staff is bilingual. So we were able to communicate with parents who may or may not have been able to communicate with their child's teacher. Our team has done a really, really great job. It has been challenging for sure for the families and the students that we serve. A lot of families were unable to work for, a few weeks. And so that was a stress. And then trying to do school at home was a stress. I know for me and my kids, I was trying to work at home and do school at home for my kids. And so I can imagine being a mom or a dad who had lost their job and maybe doesn't speak English proficiently enough to look at homework and schoolwork. So all those things kind of stacked on, really, really tough stretch there, but they made it through. We're starting to ease back into some in-person programming a little bit. It's going to look a little different than normal, but we feel good. We feel we've kind of made it through the hard part.
Your programs really help create some bond with other kids in the community when otherwise they might be alone waiting for their parents to come home.
We definitely believe that those after school hours are critical, especially if both your parents are working, not just from the education side of things, but also just from the social side of things, of just having a community, a safe place to be. And so that's what we try to do. So the bulk of what we do is after school programming where kids, they get off the bus and, maybe, run home and, drop off their bags or grab a snack or something, then come to us and, some academic enrichment, instruction. There's going to be some homework, but there's going to also be community. There's going to be time with their friends. There's going to be time with our staff and volunteers and people that love them. And we think that that's just as critical for a lot of kids. It may be even more critical than the academic piece of just having a safe place where they can be. And we hear that a lot from parents. That's their favorite thing about what we do, is that they can feel like their kids have a positive group of kids and adults that they can spend time with in the afternoons, maybe while the parents are working. We've done tons of research over the years. And I think it was in 2016, Harvard University produced a study on what they call authoritative communities. But really what it is, it gets into this idea of kids are impacted the most by the people that they spend the most time with. When you think about that, it's obviously your family at home, it's obviously at school. And we try to be that third place for the kids, that they can spend a lot of time with peers in their neighborhood, with adults on our staff or volunteers, and create this authoritative community where there's positive influence. A lot of what the research has shown, it just comes down to that. Kids are impacted by positive interactions with adults and with their peers. And if we can create an environment where it's positive, kids feel encouraged to be there, because they don't have to come to our stuff.
Yeah, they opt in, right? It's kind of their choice.
That's right. It's all voluntary. And so we feel like that's such an important thing where we create a positive space where they can have fun. We're going to do some school stuff, of course, but we want it to be a place where they like to come and we have a meaningful impact in their lives.
The physical activity of the program too. These kids are out playing soccer, they're on team sports.
We learned really quickly at the beginning that for us to bring kids in after school and have another couple hours of just school where they're sitting down, it was not going to work because they've been in school all day. So we mix it up. We have a lot of activities where they can get outside and run around and be active. Soccer is a big one, like you mentioned. So we have some soccer teams in the communities where we serve. I know at Valley Brook in Atlanta, we have 3 or 4 teams that we partner with another local soccer agency where we do practices on site in Valley Brook. And then we work with them to provide some game opportunities for kids on the weekends and then some soccer camps in the summer. So soccer is a big sport that's pretty universal for the kids there. And so that's where we put a lot of our energy. But I don't know, we've seen a lot of stuff. The community where we live, Gwinnett County, does amazing community outreach events, and they have a program called Be Active. They have like a mobile activity van, and so they come around to our communities all the time. They've been to Valley Brook twice this school year, and they come like during our normal after-school program hours, and they bring this giant box truck full of games and activities, and we spend a couple hours in the afternoons just teaching kids ways that they can be active. So that's been a really cool thing. And that brings some new adults, new people in the community that kids get excited about too. So a lot of fun stuff. We try to keep the kids busy for sure.
So I know you were talking a little bit about parents and, English as a second language. Do you also offer courses for the parents as well? I mean, I know it's tricky. My mom is from South America originally, and when she came to this country, having that language barrier was really tricky. I was brought up speaking Spanish and she didn't know much English.
Over the years, we've struggled a bit. It's always been easier to focus on programs with the kids just because they're at home more. Parents are working, schedules are different. And even in the evenings when parents are home, they've got their kids. So one of the things COVID has actually taught us, though, is the impact of spending time and offering, resources for parents. So what we've done the last 3 months with kids being at home is that we've reached out to the parents more than we normally do.
Mm-hmm.
And it has allowed us to kind of get a glimpse into their lives a little bit more and things that they're worried about or resources that they would like to have access to. And so we're working right now actually with a couple of groups. I've got a call later today actually with a group that is kind of piloting some digital English classes, which we have never thought about. We've offered, as you mentioned earlier, we've offered some English classes, ESL classes for parents at different times. But the challenge is always trying to hit the most people at one time in a physical space. And it's really, really tough. I'm curious to see what potential is going to come from this call later about some digital ESL classes where, parents can do that in their home. And one of the ways that we've been able to partner with parents over the last few months is we saw a few barriers with distance learning and the digital world. And one of those was with devices. So most families, have smartphones and tablets, but not computers in their home, just because it wasn't always necessary because the kids were doing all that work at school. But with distance learning and that being a challenge, we saw that being a barrier for kids getting their schoolwork at home. So we were able to partner with some agencies across the U.S. and provide a Google Chromebook for all the families in our programs.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been great. I think at Valley Brook, we've been able to distribute about 70 Google Chromebooks to 70 families over there. It's been really, really cool to hear parents feeling empowered. And now their kids, are using them to read online through a literacy program called EPIC. We've seen kids read hundreds, thousands of hours over the last 4 weeks. But really hearing stories from parents saying, hey, this is something that's been really cool that I've been able to take the lead on with my kids. And so really connecting back to what you were saying about programs for parents with ESL, we believe that these computers are going to be a resource if we're able to provide some online ESL programming, that these computers will be perfect.
So what's next for the PATH project?
We kind of had some models in place before COVID, and then the last 3 months have kind of really opened our eyes a little bit to maybe there's some new ways that we can scale. And we've been talking with the team at Yes Communities about some specific communities here in Atlanta and beyond about what expansion can look like. But we're also looking at some ways, how can we expand and reach more families in the Yes Community Network through digital resources? So our team's working on creating some content around, academic enrichment. But we're also looking at ways where, hey, we saw with these Google Chromebooks we were able to purchase and folks were able to donate the funds, as this being a really big opportunity and an opportunity for people around the country to get excited about, helping remove some of these barriers for kids when it comes to education. So we're looking at ways where, hey, if we could raise some money, on a national scale for, thousands of Chromebooks, our team is now trained. What if we went into some communities where maybe it would be further down the road where we could start an in-person program, but what if at the very least we were able to partner with, the management team at Yes Communities and come into some of these communities and meet families, train them on how to use a Chromebook, train them on some other digital literacy things where they can do schoolwork at home with their kids, and let that be a starting point, and pull the local school into this conversation too, right? So we do that anyway. So at the very least, maybe there's ways we could get some, smaller programs going where we talk to the local school, the property manager on site, and we meet families and we teach parents how to work with their kids at home, specifically around literacy and using technology to create opportunities for academic improvement with their kids at home, right? And let that be a starting point. And then maybe, like, we actually think the opportunity for an in-person Path Project program and community to kind of form out of that is going to move quicker than us just saying, well, hey, we're going to start a Path Project and we don't know any families, right? So if we can have this initial introduction through digital literacy to some families, then that could potentially get the ball rolling even faster.
Kim Kurz is a divisional vice president of Yes Communities. Kim was instrumental in securing an on-site classroom facility to host the Path Project's learning activities in Valley Brook through the Yes We Care program. Can you talk about the benefit of hosting an after-school program in a community like Valley Brook?
In our business, we want residents and their families to stay for a very long time. This type of connection and community really gives something sticky for people to stay for. Their friends are here. Their children maybe are getting support that's helping them be more successful, or maybe a parent is getting support. Those are all very, very positive benefits for our community. And then you said it right. All of us are very proud of what we do and the community that we can provide and the support that we can provide. And so this type of program gives that deeper pride of what you do for a living. Certainly gives some good energy to the staff and team, and certainly, say, a salesperson would really enjoy kind of pointing to that as another benefit of living in a Yes community.
What is your fondest memory of working with the Path Project?
Personally, my dad was a huge part of just making sure he instilled the value of education in his kids. And, one day I was coming through Valley Brook and wanted to go say hi to whoever was working in the classroom. And there was a group they were all moms in there. I think there might have been 10 or 12 of them there. And, basically they were learning English, really learning how they could read to their kids at night. And I just thought about that, a lot of that comes from the parents instilling what a good, solid education would mean for you. So the gift of, bringing some skill to that parent to help with their child was, it was a really cool moment and really kind of took me back and thought of Dad. So that was definitely, a huge connection, and just, the pride of our culture and the fact that we really build, again, the environment to where something like this could kind of seed and grow really gets me excited and really brings a lot of value to me personally on what I do for a living. It's fun to share those kind of stories with friends and family on what you do and how that impacts people's lives and gives them a really good quality place to call home, and affordably, where people can really, make the numbers work at the end of the month and really have a quality place for their kids to be. But the parents in the classroom it was really cool. That made a big impact on me, good impression.
Remember Eileen? You heard her voice at the beginning of this episode. She's been participating in the Path Project since 2nd grade. And now in 10th grade, she's paying it forward with helping tutor younger students after school. Eileen, what are your thoughts on the PATH project? You've been involved with it for almost half of your life at this point.
I think it's a great program, especially for those kids who do need extra help that their parents, since we do live in a diverse community, we help out from all different types of races and ethnicities. As majority here are Hispanic, so their parents may not understand or speak English, so we do help them with that. I love to say that it is a great program for those who do actually need mentors and do need help.
What is your favorite part of the PATH project?
On our Thursday evenings, instead of us having our time, we dedicate our time to helping with their reading skills and pronunciation. It's a really good experience, I think, to see these kids have somebody to look up to or like somebody to help them, which is the help that they may not receive at school or at home. I am happy to say that I do give them that help.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to start a similar project in their community?
I think definitely it would be to help others as much as you can and do the best you can in your community, because you never know what anybody else is going through. Maybe they may struggle with doing something and you don't know if it's something going on at home or at school, and they don't have anybody to help them. So it's always to be that greater, bigger person, to be there for them.
Thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed the show, please leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It would mean so much to us. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to contact us at media@yescommunities.com. I'm Vanessa Jasinski, and we'll see you next time.